Hello everybody and welcome to the final test race here in WLR. I'm joined by, as you can see on the screen, 20 other drivers here for a full qualifying around the Circuit de Paul Ricard in France for what is hopefully going to be a very exciting practice test before we get underway for our first round in just 5 days' time. It looks like it's going to be a very entertaining grid. This is our practice grid, which we managed to get full drivers unlike last night, and we're hoping to possibly keep full drivers. We've gone for full quali to properly test the pace and hopefully keep Q3 as clean as possible, with obviously half the drivers not being on track. We're currently riding on board with Elite Ishan, one of our tier 3 drivers, and we're going to see what he has to offer for the first lap of this practice section. So as he crosses the line and just goes by, I think that is George Ansel in the pits. He has completely misshot the first corner, and that is his lap come to an end. So instead we'll go on board with Days, last night's race winner, as he goes through turns 1 and 2 now and up, now down towards turn 3, 4 and 5, one of the most trickiest sections in the track this is. When you come to the end of sector 1, he normally has to drop all the way down. He's chosen first gear. The revs, geez, are very, very bad there on the way up, but now he's on that long back straight, which he showed his setup yesterday. He was really quick. Ishan lets him by, and he's into the turn 8 and 9 chicane now, as again he gets on this very long back straight all the way down towards 10 and 11, where he keeps the throttle pretty much flat out, and obviously him being a very low downforce setup, he should be very dominant in this part of the track, especially in the speed trap. So as he heads up now through the final sector of the track, just needs to try and keep it close, hit his apexes, keep the car as smooth as possible with every single driver out on track at the moment. And the first one who's going to cross the line is going to be Days, who's shortly going to be followed by George Ansel, but we'll keep an eye on the Red Bull of Days, who crosses the line, goes fastest, and I think it's actually Hayden who's behind him. Next was Daniel Mullen, and then followed by him is Ishan, who does get his lap on the board. Marley goes fourth, with George Ansel eventually going fastest. SLR Quattro goes second fastest with a 1:31 as a banker. We have an Aston Martin of, I think that is Jackie Gabbana, who's just gone sixth, and then followed by a Williams of Hazaz, who invalidated his lap. Ferrari, notorious Ferrari of Lucas Paul, back on this game, and he's managed to put his car fourth fastest for the moment. Lucky Nutshot is next. He's gone sixth, as Taylor DC has gone sixth ahead of Lucky Nutshot. Fusion has invalidated. He has to go again. Behind is Hayden. No, it is SJR finishing his lap and going third fastest. Behind DRA Geordie, a new driver to the server, and he's put in a very good lap time, P4 for him. Behind him is Legend, who's gone second fastest, followed by, I think that was Al Mass. And then it's a little bit of a break all the way to Hayden, who is closely followed by Days behind. Days flies into the pit lane, and Hayden gets on the power now down towards the line. Where will Hayden put it? It's not a bad lap time, straight in the middle, P10. Ishan is going to improve by 7 seconds, but cannot go anywhere other than last. Magnus now coming to the line as he goes through turn 15 and on the long run to the line, as I think that may have just been a flicker of rain I seen on my screen. Yet again, here in France, we are going to see some rain, and Magnus gets 6 fastest before that. It's looking like George Ansel, these drivers are going to have to get out and get a lap going quick, otherwise they'll be knocked out. El Mas completely had to cut the track there. He wants to get back and get a lap going as quickly as he can. It's going to be interesting here. We have a McLaren of, I think that's Fusion, who is going to set a lap now, but it doesn't look like it's going to be a very competitive one. Well, it won't be because he's invalidated. Here goes El Mas now, who I'm pretty sure is invalidated the next lap as well. He has. No, he hasn't. He's starting his lap there now as next driver coming to the line, Ecos Hennessy. Trying to warm up those tyres and get going. We're looking here at the drop zone. Ishan is in it. And he has to improve. So we're right on board with Al Mas. He's the only driver I think who's on a lap at the moment. Everyone else either on an in lap or not a very attacking lap. Hazaz seems to be going quite quickly out there. Doesn't seem to be lifting despite having very limited ERS. The rain is starting to pour and it's looking like this Q1 session is going to come to an end prematurely here because of the rain. Obviously you'd think, look at the top 5 definitely don't need to. Hazaz believes he's true. So it's down to these drivers here. Elmas, Ishan's in the pits. All 4 drivers in the drop zone are the 4 drivers out on track. Marshy has decided to come back out on track now. Every single driver is on the soft tyres. They know that there's rain imminent, and that is why they've decided to go for that decision. So Ishan, or El Mas, which is it's getting pretty treacherential out there now. We're going to have to see as he slides out of the final corner. Is it going to be enough to get into Q2 for El Mas? No, it isn't. He is out and he slammed the barriers because of that. So, next to cross the line, looks like it's going to be Hennessy as Fusion C Gamers into the pits. He is out of qualifying. Hennessy couldn't improve. He is out of qualifying as well. So it looks like all these drivers who have taken too long to get out and set a lap are out. So that's Elite Ishan, El Mas, Ecos Hennessy, Ricky and Fusion C Gamer. All out of qualifying. As DRS has now been disabled. That is pretty much the end of Q1. F1 Marley's out there doing some drifting. Hennessy is out of the session. He's left the session. And there goes F1 Marley. He want to make sure he doesn't retire or he's out of Q2 as well. DRA Geordie is out of Q2. He has retired as he was in the top 15. So obviously the biggest shock there being Hennessy out of qualifying. Like looking there at the back, Ishan had enough time to get some laps in, and he was slowest out of the soft runners. El Mas again just didn't have enough time to get a lap in, with Ricky of course as well. He never got enough time to get out and get a lap in, and Fusion obviously being the exact same, as Magnus has retired from qualifying. So that is him out, as well as DRA Geordie, after a retirement there. So he's going to have to wait around now. Another driver out, F1 Marley, is out for Q2. So, some other big, obviously, news there. DRA Geordie, F1 Marley, and 2 Magnus all won't be taking part in Q3 because of, obviously, crashing, or Q2 because of crashing. So, only 2 drivers are out. Ishan finishes qualifying, and that is that over. You'd love to maybe see Ishan maybe go through, considering he's kept it on the grid. So we have George Ansell topping Q1 with Legend alongside Quattro in third, saying he doesn't have pace. Maybe he was sandbagging a bit because he's not far off there with SJR in fourth. DRA Geordie fifth, but he won't partake because of a DNF in Q1. Days starts 6th and Lucas Paul in 7th. Daniel Mullen 8th, Hazaz 9th, Taylor DC at 10th with Hayden 11th, Lucky Nutshot 12th. Marley, again another one who won't partake because he DNF'd. Jackie Gabbana in 14th, and 2 Magnus as well for a DNF means he will not partake in the next session. An interesting grid. I'd like to hear your opinions. I have the YouTube video up so I can see your opinions. Oh, so never mind. DRA Geordie and Marley do get to race. It's unfortunate for Magnus. Sorry, we're just sorting out some little bits of... Okay, so we have 14 drivers out, and this time hopefully it's going to be an interesting qualifying. Hopefully it doesn't rain too much and it's the same as last time where the track gets too worse that no one will improve. We'll keep an eye on, first is SJR, who's invalidated his outlap at the moment and is now heading out for his first timed lap of Q2. It's been a very interesting qualifying session, well, the start of it anyway, until it kind of died down obviously, but yeah, it's been quite good. The standard has been high. Some of the lap times set have been really competitive, and SJR is one of them, and he'll be hoping to get into the top 10 shootout. 4 other drivers have not made it through to the top, will not make it through to the top 10 shootout. As SJR, you can see his car is just sliding through the corners. It's quite amazing. It looks absolutely brilliant, and hopefully back 2 can maybe get a few videos of this. Yep, I see your comment there, Sanko. Hayden did race, and he is currently in Q2. I think he went 10th fastest, right in the middle, and I'm sure he'll definitely be one of the favourites to get into Q3 anyway. Obviously full-time tier 2 Alpha Tauri driver, so a lot to prove. Here comes SJR now, Round and true, turn 11, invalidates and spins the car. So that is the end of that for him. Our race winner in the wet last night is Days, and he, as well as Q1, is going to be the first person to set a lap time and is probably going to go fastest. Days, who was a tier 3 driver at the start of yesterday, he could end up being a tier 1 driver by the end of this on how good these practice races have been, but I'm sure he'll probably stay in tier 2. He looks like he'll be a very competitive driver in there, and I don't look forward to racing with him. So here comes Days to the line. It's a 1:42.3, not a bad lap from him. DRA Geordie right behind. He's going to go first with a 1:41.6, followed by an Alfa Romeo of F1 Marley to go third. Then Jackie Gabbana, who goes fourth fastest. Behind them is, I'm pretty sure, Daniel Mullen, who is flying down the main straight now. We'll get lap data enabled as he heads to the line and goes second fastest. It's an AlphaTauri 1-2 at the moment. Legend, the only Mercedes driver left on the grid, gets to the line and splits the two AlphaTauris as George Ansel goes 7/10 quicker than both of them. He is showing some severe pace out there. Next across the line is Lucas Paul, starting a lap, and WLR Quattro behind, finishing a lap and finishing it by going P2. So that is the end of the first runs, I'm pretty sure. Or is SJR going to come to an end of a lap, or is it Hazaz? No, it was Hayden who's gone 8th fastest with a 1:43 flat. Favourite for Paul Sanko? Well, at the moment, he's favourite for the top 10 at least. That's what we're going to focus on, as that is the objective of Q2. It doesn't matter about George Ansel in front. He couldn't care if he's first or if he's 10th. As long as he's in Q3, that's all that matters. Seems like Days is coming to the end of a lap. I'm looking here. Hazaz invalidated, and SJR is on a lap himself. I don't think he is. No, he is. He's continuing on. He's packaged a bit of fuel into that car, which means he can go as long as he can. And on the power now, towards the start finish line we go. SJR goes P2 with a 1:41 flat. That driver has pace, and I tell you, I am excited for his few races in VRS, because he has gone very close to George Ansel as well. And I tell you, if he could do more races on Saturdays, he'd be a favourite in the championship for sure. 14 people watching this practice race, and only 15 subscribers is all I see. So if you are watching and you're not subscribed and you wouldn't mind subscribing, please do. It helps out the league a lot and helps us grow. And to be honest, there's no reason. Doesn't cost you anything. And if you enjoy league racing, you should enjoy worldwide league racing. As this is a note to everyone that this is only a practice session. And I have to say, for a practice session, obviously you do see, like obviously F1 Marley there, I think it was, going through the chicane. Like stuff like that will be accepted in a practice session, because at the end of the day, we just want people to get laps. We don't really care about whether they're kind of doing it illegally or not. As long as they're back, as soon as round 1 starts, that's when things really kind of start to get a bit more strict on the rule keeping. But we'll probably just put the rule out so people do know it is a rule, that you will get I think more than likely it's going to be a qualifying ban for cutting the track on your in lap or out lap in order to get to the line quicker. That's if you're caught. Obviously, if you're not caught, it's your own decision. So, looking here, I don't see anyone. I see Geordie, who could be on a lap himself. He is, and he has gone a bit quicker. 3/10 has put him in third. Next person on a lap is Hazaz, who has an Alpine ahead of him. He's going to hope to get out of the way. This will be his only lap of the session, and he's hoping. It looks like the track isn't getting worse, which is a good sign, because obviously with DRA Geordie improving means that there is going to be time for improvements, and it will be a good end to Q2 other than Q1. We'll see now, because Hazaz is going to set his first banker time of the session, and he goes 8th fastest. Not a bad lap. Puts Jackie Gabbana and Lucas Paul currently out, with Hayden on the cusp, as Quattro goes fastest with a 1:47. really strong lap from him. It's going to be interesting to see who is going to be able to win this championship next year, or on next Saturday in Tier 1. Obviously, Spain is the first round. We're hoping that it won't be as much rain there as obviously is on screen. It's a morning time race, so there shouldn't really be much rain in Spain. We don't know the weather, and that won't be announced. That's probably going to be a future feature if it is announced. All we know is that it is a morning time race in the hills of Catalonia. Jackie Gabbana starting his lap now as a Red Bull of Days comes to the end. Oh no, starting his as well. Legend the exact same. Then Lucky Nutshot on a lap, hoping to improve as he goes through the final corner of turn 15 and gets on the power, and he's hoping possibly to get into the top 10 quite easily with a 1:41.4, which puts Marley on the cusp and Hayden currently knocked out. So with Taylor still yet to set a lap in Q2, Lucas Paul and Jackie Gabbana both on laps, with Jackie Gabbana being 5 tenths up, meaning that a few more tenths. We'll see now as he comes to the end of the second sector. He's almost a second up on his time. This is going to shoot him possibly into the top 7 here. Almost definitely. He's the next driver to go to the line, so we'll ride on board with him as he goes through this sector 3, and we'll see if he can make up any time at all. Through turn 11 now, out on the power. He's going to drop normally to 4th through this as well. Actually, no, I'm thinking about dry time, so I actually don't really know what the gears will be to run through this wet part of the track. But through the penultimate corner now, as he just passes the pit lane and just invalidates so far up on his time. That is so unfortunate. And with F1 Marley behind, who's also invalidated. I think he's only starting a lap, so that's not really relevant to him. Days is on a lap. He has Alfie behind him, but Alfie is continuing on his lap. You can see him just there before Days. He snaps of oversteer coming out of the corner, but as he gets to the line now, he goes 6th fastest, so he does improve slightly. Legend improves again by 7 tenths and goes 5th fastest. Still, you wouldn't count that as possibly the best time you could get. You could definitely get a lot more out of that time. Lucky Nutshot starting his possible final flying lap now, as it looks like the pit lane is quite quiet at the moment. Not many people in a rush to get out. SJR, oh, he's lost it and he's hit the wall, and he was only starting a lap as well. He has lost it. He seems to be true anyway, so that's not going to be a big deal. He's just going to have to make sure he keeps it on the track, doesn't retire. So looking here now, 3 minutes to go. You'd want to hope, looking at Lucas Paul and Quattro both in the pits. Quattro's probably safe, but Lucas Paul will need to get out as quick as he can if he wants to try and get into Q3. DRA Geordie going to the line, and I think that's Taylor starting a lap as Lucas Paul is now leaving the pit lane. You can see his car on its way out, and SLR Quattro is going to do the exact same. Jackie Gabbana, who invalidated another lap. As far as his fuel, we'll just enable telemetry for a moment. His fuel seems to be running out, so maybe he'll only have enough for one more lap. It's now or never for Jackie Gabbana, and off he goes. We'll see what he can do. Next to the line was F1 Marley, who's only barely gone and improved. That might not be enough. He'll have to try and get back around quickly and get another lap. We'll see if he does or not, as Daniel Mullen starts his lap there now. That's Hazaz coming to the end of his lap here now. Oh no, he's only starting one as well. The game still doesn't really clarify whether you're on a lap or not. Lucky Nutshot, he's a second down, so I'm guessing he's not on a lap. There is an Alpine behind him, I'm pretty sure that's George Ansel. Again, only starting a lap. His teammate Hayden, both of those drivers are in Q2, and I'm sure they'd both love to be in Q3 as well. We'll have a look, as I think that is DRA Geordie, who was 4 seconds up. I think that's actually because he's cut a load of corners, but we'll ignore that. We have an Alfa Romeo of Taylor, who's also gone very wide, nearly into the barriers here. It's going to be a race to the line, really, for some of these drivers. And I'm looking, I don't see many that's really on a lap at the moment. George Ansell is, but he's as Taylor's retired. Taylor's manually retired, so maybe he's run out of fuel, or maybe invalidated next lap as well as this lap. He is out of qualifying, and his car will hopefully pull over to the side and out of the way of everyone. That's quite unfortunate, but it's better than some. He made it to Q2, others didn't. Daniel Mullen next across the line, but he is not on a lap. Then it's Hazaz. He is definitely on a lap, as he's flying through this sector as he goes now through turn 15. He definitely gets a much better line through there, which allows him to get on the power as quickly as possible. To the line he goes now. Will it be an improvement for Hazaz? It will. It will launch him all the way up into P4. Now the track seems to be improving a lot, so will that be enough to get through? He's only 9/100ths of a second off his teammate. George Ansell, 5/10ths up on his time. This is going to be provisional pole, well, in Q2 anyway, for sure, as he comes to the line now. Jackie Gabbana out of qualifying. George Ansell's gone fastest in Q2. So all eyes on Lucas Paul. Hayden coming to the line now. Is it going to be Q2? It is going to be Q2 for Hayden. That has put Marley on the cusp. Daniel Mullen is out. He's invalidated. So all eyes are on Lucas Paul, but we'll look at, I think it's DRA Geordie first, who's a second up, going through the final corner now. What can he do? Can he go a bit closer to the front? Because the track is drying out rapidly as there's no rain whatsoever pouring down. Geordie goes fastest, next across the line. SLR Quattro, 2/10ths up. I'm sure it'll be a lot more in the middle sector, or the final sector. He's gone second ahead of George Ansell, not too close to Geordie, who seems to be absolutely rapid at the moment. Lucas Paul, he's 7/10ths up. He is flying it. He's going to need a little bit more in the final sector to get into the top 10 and knock F1 Marley out, who is biting his nails at the moment, I'm sure, as Lucas Paul comes to the line. And it is going to be Q2 for the Ferrari driver as he goes 9th fastest. Hazaz is next. He seems to actually be going quite quick as well, but it doesn't really matter because that is the end of Q2. DRA Geordie tops it with Quattro second and George Ansell third. Williams really good with SJR and Hazaz 4th and 5th. Hayden makes Alpine have 2 cars in Q2, with Legend being the sole Mercedes and Lucky Nutshot being the sole McLaren. 2 Ferraris both in Q2 or in Q3, and Days is the only Red Bull, just barely by the skin of his teeth, makes his way into the top 10 shootout, which is next. So here we go, the start of Q3. DRA Geordie is out second to YT Hazaz, who is out as quickly as he can. I've seen himself and Days waste no time in getting out. Obviously DRA Geordie was the same, almost out as quickly as they can. We'll ride on board with Hazaz. I have to just be gone for a quick minute as I make a phone call, and hopefully back to commentate on this lap. Okay, so Hazard has invalidated, so closest behind is DRA Geordie, currently on a lap. Hopefully won't be too long there. So Geordie obviously topping the last session and seems to have a lot of pace. It'd be a shame if he can't get a seat for the start of the season. I'm sure he possibly will. We'll have to have a look. He'll definitely get a race anyway, as I know that Jinx will not be able to race in round one, so he definitely will race until he does get a seat. Obviously reserves are able to score full-time points, so when they do get a seat, as DRA Geordie comes to the line at 1:31, behind is Days. The only Red Bull left in the session goes 8/10 slower. After that, it's SLR Quattro coming to the line now. He goes quickest of all, with I think then next SJR. Does he go even quicker? No, only the front row for now. Lucas Paul seems to be going quite fast, but not fast enough. Only fifth. Next across the line is Hayden. He's gone fourth. Not a bad lap at all from him. His fellow League of Ireland protege, Lucky Nutshot, has only raced a few times in when CTCR was around, and in WLR he has gone sixth so far in the practice race. Next across the line will be Alfie, one of our founders of the league. He is flying around on this Mercedes at the moment. His teammate DNFing in Q1 after pretty much securing a place into Q2, which possibly could have seen him here over someone of Days, who obviously only just barely made it through. But he doesn't care about his teammate, he just cares about who's driving in that car, which is himself. He goes third fastest. Behind then George Ansell, probably the favourite for pole position. And here he goes now to the line with DRS enabled. Behind him is the Williams of Hazaz. George Ansell goes fastest by only a tenth of a second. I was definitely expecting a lot more. And Hazaz will set his lap time. And this is the first run of laps. Hazaz goes ninth, just ahead of Lucas Paul. So not a bad start at all to Q3. I'd definitely like to see it a little bit more climactic, which I'm sure it will be, because SJR, you could say from DRA Geordie all the way up to George Ansell only being separated by a second, Obviously, it's going to be hard for maybe these three to maybe get a second of pace, but these two definitely are going to be battling for pole. And if I see this a lot next season, well, I'm sure we're going to have some very interesting qualifying sessions in Tier 1 next season. And look how quickly the track has dried out. It was dry in qualifying 1 at the start. It was kind of overcast, then it started to rain. By the end of it, it was getting quite damp. Q2, the start of Q2 especially, was completely damp. Before then, the start or the end of Q2 was kind of starting to dry out, and now it's only midway through Q3 right now, and the sun is cracking the stones. This place is absolutely flying at the moment. And Hazes is going to be next to come into the pit lane. No action down in the pit lane of Paul Ricard. We have a very, very quiet pit lane, you could say, at the moment. Nobody in any rush. So this is where I ask yous in the YouTube chat whether yous have DNF'd and or haven't made it through yet, or yous just are watching the stream. I'd like to see some opinions or some questions. And I say that we may not need much, because Lucas Paul has just decided to say an empty track must be boring for Gaffo to commentate on that. He'll drive out and he'll give me something to commentate on. SJR for Paul. I tell you, if you can shave 8 tenths in that lap, you'll probably need a second SJR, because I'm sure George Ansel and Quattro both have time in their lap and able to go a bit quicker. Behind Lucas Paul, I'm pretty sure there's more movement down there. If I didn't see, we'll go back to the pit lane, and nope, nothing happening at all. It's actually a very weird pit lane, because 5 of the pit boxes are open, and then the other three teams of Alfa Romeo, I'm pretty sure that's Haas, and of course the other one, Aston Martin, have no cars. So Lucas Paul's come out early. Now I don't know whether that's for him a 26.8. I don't know if that's even the world record, but I'm excited. Bit of a dead lap, many mistakes. Yep, well, George, that's all well and good, but the running team of you is, can you do it in the race? We'll see if you can. Lee Davies, watching Days, he has been amazing in both practice races. You should have seen him yesterday evening, where he was absolutely flying it, and I'm guessing I know why you're here then this evening after that brilliant performance. So here comes SJR leaving the pit lane after his statement of a 26.8 is potentially coming for him. George Ansel has time in his lap according to him, and Quattro believes he also has a lot of time in his lap. So he believes in SJR. I'm sure he believes in himself. Let's see if he believes in his teammate. Lucas Paul gets his lap underway. I know all the dry gear changes, so he should drop to 4th going through this. He goes for 5th in this stage, and straight through the 1 and 2 chicane, getting on the power as early as possible on the run down towards the final part of this sector. Drops 3 gears, and then you normally drop just an extra gear here going through turn 5, getting on the power around now on this very long straight now, all the way down, DRS enabled, just around now, all the way down to the 8-9 chicane. You'll want to try and nail this chicane as best as possible with the speed trap just coming up. You'll want to try, this is where you get most of your lap time, because there's such a long run to the next braking zone from this chicane, and he seems to have done quite well enough. Through sector 2, he is 2 tenths up. He's going to need a lot more in the final sector if he even wants to try and get into the top 7. Maybe in the reach of Lucas Paul if he can really pull it together here going through turn 11. Definitely not Ferrari's favourite corner, as S8 showed a few seasons ago. As here he goes now through turn 13 and into the penultimate corner now, one of the trickiest corners on the track. It's never ending all the way until you finally get to the apex of turn 15, getting on the power as early as possible, and the run down to the start-finish line. Lucas Paul goes 7th fastest. Just as I said, a lot of time made up in the final sector. We'll see if Days, Lucky Nutshar, Hazaz are able to improve on that. Hazaz currently not improving at all as he's going through the final sector here. But as Lucas Paul showed, it's definitely a part of the track you can gain time, and he's done a good job in not invalidating it, and that's really the real crucial thing on this track, and that's not invalidating it. Such long run-offs mean you can push the car as much as you can, but if you go off the track, that's your lap pretty much over. So here goes Hazaz now to the line. Can he improve? And how much can he improve by? He does improve. Only 9th fastest. And Lucky Nutshot, I'm sure. Oh, I thought was maybe going to try and say something about that, but he has hit the barriers out of turn 12 through 13, and that is qualifying over for the McLaren, and he will start 10th for the race. Next across the line we have the Alpine of Hayden, who is only starting a lap there. SJR is a 10th up on his time. Can he make more through the final sector? It's not going to be a 26.8, it's going to be a 29.6, and it's going to put him 3rd fastest. Lucky Nutshot came into the pits, so he won't be interfering with qualifying anymore. Lucas Paul on an in-lap, so he's in no rush whatsoever to do anything at all. George Ansell has invalidated. That puts it in the hands of Quattro, who's only a 10th down at the moment, so we'll have to have a look at that sooner rather than later. Alfie is up next to the end of the 2nd sector. He's 6/10 up. This could possibly be pole for the Mercedes driver. I've tipped him for the championship. Well, I may tip him for pole position here today as well, as he goes through the long left-hand or right-hander of turn 11. Obviously, as many drivers have shown, Hazaz, Lucas Paul, SJR, this is where the time can be made in the final sector, and Legend is going to be the next driver to do it. Quattro could stop him if he has improved, but Legend definitely has improved. A very nice final corner. He's going to come to the line. Is it going to be pole position? It's not at the moment. WLR Quattro's invalidated, meaning that he can only settle for 3rd. Alfie by only 200ths of a second goes 2nd fastest. So close to pole position. DRA Geordie, I missed that. He's gone 4th fastest. Finally, we have Days, who wasn't able to improve, meaning he'll stay 8th. Hayden in 6th. He improved, but not enough to get closer to SJR. So you can really see from the top 5 upwards is where they will all be battling possibly for the win. They're only separated by less than 4/10. The rest all pretty much a second behind. But a very interesting end to qualifying. Legend so close to getting pole position, but it's going to be only the front row he'll settle for, with the race coming up next. Well, you weren't wrong about that, SJR. 29.6, as you have picked up a 29.6. I don't think you planned to have from going 4th to 5th though. You were 10th up and invalid. I think that must have been through sector 2, because you were 10th down when you headed into the chicane. I checked on Alfie and he was 6/10 up. I couldn't go off that, but so close. But it's going to be George Ansell who set pole position on his banker, with Alfie alongside, with only 23 thousandths of a second separating them. SLR Quattro, the reigning champ from corner to corner racing, is in 3rd, with DRA Geordie only joined the league I think about an hour ago, and he has been absolutely sensational. 4th fastest for the practice test, and SJR just closely behind in 5th. Hayden in 6th, Lucas Paul 7th, Days in 8th, Hazaz in 9th, with Lucky Nutshot only barely missing out on 9th. He goes 10th. So here we go. We go straight into the Grand Prix here in France. It's lights out and away we go. It's Legend who obviously got the better start being in AI mode, with George Ansel getting the better getaway on the front row. And he's into the provisional lead of the race, because I'm sure he'll catch up to Legend quickly, as Legend for some reason is in AI mode. Seems to be a very solid getaway, as only I think 2 drivers are currently in AI mode. Everyone else still in the session, as we watch everyone go through the first few corners of this race. And it's been very clean, I must say myself. But there is a spinner at the back, and that is F1 Marley. And, well, you kind of would expect it with everything that has happened. And Elite Ishan has also retired. He's hit the barriers there, I'm pretty sure, behind. But luckily, we've avoided any sort of safety car. George Ansel getting onto the back of Legend here. As Legend still hasn't picked up from AI, and so far been a very, very clean getaway to this, as Legend finally gets back into the session. Luckily for himself, when he takes control, he won't be too far behind. I think he'll be ideally where he'd want to be, currently in second. Well, he's dropped a bit, but I'm sure he has just taken control of his car there in fourth, with Days right on the back. An excellent start from Days. Looking at people, I'm going to have a little look here. SJR has got a bad start. He's lost 10 places. Lucky Nutshot and Marley the same. 10 places pretty much each, as Lucky Nutshot is in the pits, and that's probably why he has. Other than that, very good start from Fusion Gamer, all the way from last on the grid up to P12. Jen Magnus as well, from 15th up to 10th, with Days and Hazaz getting equally as good starts. Hayden and Lucas Paul have both dropped a place, but I'm sure they'll be very happy to be in the points currently at the moment. With, I think that's Legend closing up to DRA Geordie here, going into the chicane. Legend bangs wheels, and he has to go off the track, and I'm sure if he was a bit more right here, he'd give that place back, because he did overtake him off the track there. He's up into the podium places after an overtake off the track. He's trying to get back to where he once was, but if that was a race, I'm sure he'd probably take a penalty for it, and he has actually got his 5-second penalty for gaining a place and cutting a corner. He'll serve that in the pit stops. So a clean getaway, no safety cars, everything going really, really well at the moment. As Quattro closes up to George Ansel, and Legend closes up to both of them. These three, get used to these three's names, because they will be battling for race wins every weekend. Legend sets the fastest lap of the race. He seems to be fastest on race pace, with the top 4 all starting on mediums, next 3 in softs, and then it's pretty much mediums all the way, other than Magnus, SJR, and of course the AI of the Red Bull. As that is SJR getting by Fusion C Gamer, who I think had a bit of a spin, unfortunately, but he's back, but unfortunately with a little bit of damage, so he'll have to come into the pit. And he'll join out roughly where his teammate is at the moment. Days has also picked up a penalty. I think that's for track limits already. And so too is Fusion Z Gamer. They're going to have to try and get used to that, because that rule definitely isn't going to be removed. The strict track limits, and Days under a lot of pressure after getting by Geordie there, showing that he has some pace. Maybe just around Paul Ricard, but in general I'm sure he'll be a definite candidate in Tier 2. There goes DRA Geordie. They're going to go side by side here up towards turn 12. Geordie's going to try and hang it around the outside. That is a beautiful move by the AlphaTauri. But Days is going to try to switch back here and maybe fight back. They're still side by side here, going through turn 14 and turn 15. It looks like Geordie is well ahead, and he has got the place. And Days under pressure now, this time from Hazaz, who's getting right on the back and possibly going to try and get alongside the Red Bull down into turn 1. Is he going to be late on the brakes like Daniel Ricciardo down the inside? Hazaz is up into 5th place and ahead of Days, and Hayden had to overtake with SJR retiring in the pit lane from this race. Hayden picks up a penalty for exceeding track limits after getting by, I think who was it? It was Days, but he's actually lost a place back to Days. These two are battling, which means Hazaz is going to start to pull away a little bit. An excellent overtake, and he's up into 5th as SLR Quattro and George Ansell are battling down in towards the chicane here now. We'll keep an eye on the leaders because that's what everyone wants to be watching. These three, look at that for a photo, all battling for the lead of the race here. George Ansell's currently leading it, but Quattro's going to try it around the outside. He backs off, but going into turn 11, I'm sure he's not going to back off. Ferrari don't have a great record round this corner, and Alpine, well, there's not much to say about them, but Ferrari look like they're going to get it here, but they haven't, because George Ansell has held on, although Quattro gonna maybe try it back again. He gets a good exit and he's gonna battle down towards turn 14. George Ansell leaves him the space. A little twitch means that he has to give way. Legend is forced almost off the track there by Quattro. These three still race, and you can see how far in the distance away from DRA Geordie they are, as Marley has now decided to retire. They're side by side here through turn 1 and 2. And it's SLR Quattro up into the lead of the race, as Legend has disconnected from the session again. That is quite unfortunate. He's going to lose out a lot and possibly make DRA Geordie a bit of a threat now to his podium place. So it's just going to be these two that are going to battle all night long. And George Ansell, with DRS enabled, is going to battle and probably battle himself back up into the lead here. We ride on board as he flies by the Ferrari and up into the lead of the race here on lap 5. Hayden and Hazaz have a bit of a battle here down in towards 6 and 7. Hayden gets the move done, which has allowed them to be under pressure from Magnus, who is having a storming race here at the moment. They head towards turn 10 now. It's Hayden from Hazaz, but possibly from Magnus soon. They're both derailing. They're both side by side. Which one is going to be in front? That's going to be the question. Magnus trying to stay with him. Hazaz just has the better pace. A really good defending there from the Williams driver. As I have to say, the connection and the racing for a crossplay lobby, this has been absolutely amazing to commentate, amazing to watch, and I couldn't be more excited for round 1. As Magnus now closing in on Hazaz. These four all the way down towards Days, all battling for that 5th place, with Magnus being the only one without a penalty. Now obviously he doesn't have a great record around here. Last time he raced a league race around here, he actually got a race ban for intentionally bringing out a safety car. As Quattro loses it there coming out of turn 6 into 7, and he's got out of the DRS there of George Ansell, which is great to George Ansell's eyes. There's something that they're happening there, and I think it's Magnus who's gone around at turn 6. So himself and Quattro, two founders of the league, have not had the best of corners there on lap 6 through turn 6. And both of them, one dropping away from the lead and the other has dropped out of the points. And Quattro has also picked up a penalty. That's not going to help his chances. I'm sure he'll want to break away because DRA Geordie's actually getting very close to him now. with, of course, Legend falling off. Obviously back in the lobby, meaning that he can catch up a bit again, but they all are kind of falling off a bit. Taylor DC has not had a race to remember. That's another penalty added to his total. That brings him up to 6. He joins the club with Hazaz and Fusion. Kind of just trying to get used to the strict penalty system. That's Ricky going for the move on Daniel Mullen and getting by and up into P12. Nice move there from the Aston Martin, as that is Lucky Nutshot. Gone for a little trip into the barriers down at turn 5. Now Mass closing in on Lucas Paul here. Lucas Paul falling out of DRS of Jackie Cabana, who's fallen way out of DRS of Days. Lucas Paul is out of the DRS, which is going to make El Mas a huge chance here now to overtake. First, we'll have a look at Hazaz, who's got a great exit there on Hayden and is looking for at least provisional P5 because of penalties. He will drop eventually. And here goes Hazaz into turn 1. Hayden's going to try and stay late on the brakes as they both go side by side through the first chicane. Hayden, great defending, keeps the place. But Hazaz going to come back here through turn 5. They go. Hayden keeps it really, really well. Or turn 3, I should say, keeps it well and keeps his position in P5. El Mas obviously ghosted there. Oh, and that's Lucas Paul around, and that is General Hut, otherwise known as Magnus, who's hit into him, and both carried into the barrier with Lucas Paul luckily avoiding wing damage. But both of them are going to be really annoyed with that, which has put El Mas, who had disconnected, up into the points there, and Ricky also now into the points, and Daniel Mullen not too far behind, getting back by Ricky and into the points himself. It's been a great race to watch, and one battle that has been sensational is these three blue cars, 3 different shades of blue, all battling for P5, but Hazaz is the one that stays out. Obviously the other 2 on the soft tyres, well, Hazaz on it as well, meaning that he may come into the pits soon. He stays out for another lap, as Geordie is the first driver who's on the mediums to come in for a pit stop and onto the hards. Interesting strategy call. Hayden, who was on the softs, came in and onto the mediums, with Days doing the same. Keep an eye on Hazaz, because the front 3 are kind of breaking away and falling away from each other. There's not much to be watching there. Daniel Mullen is getting quite close to Ricky, but he just being close is another thing, but actually looking like overtaking is another. Ricky getting by El Mas is a different scenario, obviously, with him having being ghosted. Ricky should get by him fairly easily. Other than that, no other real battles on the track at the moment. Lucky Nutshot and his teammate are close. Ricky gets by El Mas. I tell you, Daniel Mullen, he's going to get a slipstream off both cars here, which is going to give him a nice little tow and may help them get a move on Ricky soon enough. He moves up into 7th place at the moment. Obviously, as far as pit stops go, other than Lucas Paul and the AI Red Bull, everybody has made at least one stop that is below the top 10. We'll see how much of an undercut Geordie has made here, because the only other people into the pits here are Daniel Mullen and Hazaz. The rest have stayed out. We'll keep an eye on Hazaz, and we'll keep an eye on Hayden, who's coming through the final corner now with Days, and they have just got on the power, heading down the straight now it's looking like they're going to get the move, and they're going to stay well ahead of Hazaz on the undercut. A very successful undercut by both the Alpine and the Red Bull, which I'm quite frustrated about because it means that they're a little bit further apart and there won't be as much battling as there was. DRA Geordie has came out of pits and straight into a little battle with Taylor DCFC, but has just flown by without a problem, with Taylor also getting by El Mas, so that maybe might not be a problem for him. He's up into the points. He'd like to stay there, but obviously a pit stop is still imminent for the Alfa Romeo driver. George Ansell now still decides to stay out another lap. Both Quattro and Legend do the same, with Jackie Cabana currently running in fourth. Obviously a 3-second penalty doesn't help his cause, but 7 seconds to the next car. We'll see when he pits whereabouts he'll come out and when that will be. Well, that's going to be now. He flies into the pit lane and we'll see if his teammate follows him. As Magnus picks up another penalty, he doesn't follow him. DRA Geordie, well, he's definitely going to get by. Taylor, next one into the pits, he's steaming in. Buddy, I thought he was going to pick up a penalty there. No, it's just Legend picking up another one. Legend's race not going as planned. 8 seconds of penalties. DRA Geordie, when obviously Legend pits, has a real chance of a podium. For obviously Legend having to serve the penalty and obviously having a 3-second penalty. We'll see. He's closing in on Ricky and he's maybe going to get by him soon. Looking there down at the back, Daniel Mullen could be in with getting a nice undercut on Ricky. Obviously being just pitted there a few laps ago, going from mediums to softs until the end. We'll see if that goes to plan, as DRA Geordie just about caught it on camera. He gets by Ricky and up into the top 4. That is before pit stops. As far as a pit stop around here, I'm pretty sure 26 seconds is the last time, if I'm correct. Correct me if I'm wrong. But into the pit lane. Nobody. Oh, that's not going to help his overcut. Alfie, a huge snap of oversteer coming out of turn 14. That is his teammate Magnus, who just like yesterday is having a race to forget. And he's going to hope that that's not the story of his season. Oh, and he's hit the barriers. And I don't think that's going to bring out the safety car. I don't think it's turned on. Which is lucky, because I wouldn't really want to bring out a safety car with all this racing that's happening at the moment. It's been an excellent race, and you don't want to miss it. As Almas comes into the pits now, and he's going to start to lose a lot of places. Hayden gets by Ricky, who is in the pits. He's up in the 5th. This has been brilliant. If Sanko, if you're still here, your friend Hayden has been amazing on his return to this league. Obviously, it's not CTCR anymore. He's technically not a race winner in this league, but, well, he could be in Tier 2 this season because he is absolutely rapid in the Alpine at the moment. We'll see if he is as rapid in the car that is ahead of him at the moment. But at the moment, with Ricky there, I was looking at him coming out. He does get undercut by Daniel Mullen, and Daniel Mullen is up into a comfortable spot in the points here, and with Ricky having 5 seconds for, I think that was speeding in the pit lane, it's looking like he's going to see on to P9 and especially P10 with Taylor in 11th, as Lucky Nutshot has come into the pits and also retired from the race. And finally George Ansell, Quattro also come into the pits. Legend trying to stay out for as long as he can. I don't know if he's waiting for a safety car, but he'll be waiting for a long time, because I don't think they're enabled at the moment, Legend. Especially after seeing your teammate just crash into the barriers. I definitely don't think they are. But at least you'll say he'll be able to lead a lap for a few moments. Only 3 drivers are without penalties, and that is George Ansell and DRA Geordie, and obviously Al Mas, but obviously he only raced 8 laps and kept penalty free in those 8 laps. And the rest are either AI or have picked up a penalty. We'll see now. No on-track battles at the moment, although Taylor is getting close to Ricky here. Taylor on the softs, Ricky also on the softs. Can the Alfa Romeo driver pick up a point here in France? Give him a huge confidence boost going into round one anyway. We'll see as he goes round. Final few corners there. Into the pits came Legend, and DRA Geordie gets miles by him, with Legend obviously serving his penalty as well. Now I wonder if Hayden is going to maybe cause a bit of trouble for Legend. I don't think he will, and obviously with a few more extra penalties, as that's Hazaz going down the inside of Days there. We've just caught it there, and he's up into P6. That came out of nowhere. I think he was a second behind him at one stage, and now he's about a second in front. Ricky has gained a lot there on Daniel Mullen and has got up into P9 there with his teammate just ahead. Now Taylor would love a point, but with his 12 seconds of penalties, he has called it a halt and has decided to retire his car. Our focus is on the leaders. Now Quattro with 6 seconds of penalties and DRA Geordie only 3. If he has to pace Geordie, and Quattro's tyres wear off, he could maybe get in that 3 second window and pick up P2. Now I'm sure he wouldn't care, because with Legend being 9 seconds behind him, he'd probably just like to be standing on the podium on his first race here in WLR. Hayden is in 5th, with Days currently being pressurised by Hazaz, both with high penalties at the moment, meaning that Jackie Gabbana and Ricky may get it by them anyway because of their penalties, especially for Hazaz. This is a lovely little battle here though. It's going to keep us entertained until the checkered flag. It's a Red Bull versus a Williams. Definitely not something you'd see, but as far as straight line speed, it maybe is going to be something you'll see this season in real life, maybe in a track like Monza or Vegas. But the Red Bull coming out on top at the moment. Hazard's got a great exit. Days just seems to be slow out of turn 2 there. Hazard's had to just back off though, because otherwise I think he was about to go straight into the back of the Red Bull driver. Daniel Mullen picks up another penalty. That's not going to help him, despite already being in the points anyway, so I'm sure you wouldn't mind. As here comes Hazaz now with DRS on the back of the Red Bull. Both have pretty much no ERS, but are both gonna battle into turn 8. Hazaz gets the place and gets up into P6, but here comes Days back at him again. These two, well, they definitely weren't battling yesterday, because Days was miles in front and Hazaz was battling for, I think that was around P4 at the time, and then dropped because of his penalties. Days gets back in front again. He's showing his smarts here, and both being tier 2 drivers, I think we know who's going to be the better tier 2 driver, because Hazaz is absolutely flying at the moment. Or Days, I should say. And Jackie Gabbana was flying too before he's done that. Whether it was a spin or a bit of contact, I just missed it. And he's hit the barriers. His teammate will go through, and Jackie's into the pits. It's been an entertaining race, to say the least. Hazard's closing in on Days again. DRS opened down the straight towards the braking zone now. There goes Hazard. He's gone a bit deep, and Days is going to just keep it under control. Both with 12 seconds of penalties. Ricky is probably going to end up picking up here P6 despite these two battling. And you know, Daniel Mullen could as well if he could get in that 6 second period or 6 second window that's kind of there between them. These two are battling side by side, which isn't going to help them get far away. Hazard gets a great exit and pushes Days a little bit wide and is up into P6. He won't be complaining and hoping that Days maybe holds up Ricky here. His objective now is just not to pick up another time penalty for track limits, and he may be able to pick up P6 after all. And with Quattro picking up another penalty, Geordie looks like he's going to be able to take home his podium after all. And if Legend cops on, I'm pretty sure he may be able to too. Fusion Z Gamer has crashed. I think that's just here at the chicane. So if I look here, penalties from the leader, Legend 10 seconds off. I don't think he'll get anywhere close. It's definitely been a good race. Brilliant race to watch. And it's looking like this man has brought a new era to his racing in F1 23. I've seen some of his times. He is flying in time trial, and he is flying in the race too. He has 2 laps from now before he crosses the checkered flag and wins the first ever featured race, including all tiers in WLR. Days wins the first race of WLR that's ever streamed, which I'm sure he'd like to keep that accomplishment proud for himself, but it's looking like it's going to be George Ansell, even with 6 seconds of penalties now, who's going to take home the first featured official race for, well, not official, because official was yesterday. First kind of, I don't really know how to say it, but it was the first full featured race with all tiers, including tier 1. It is really an accomplishment. Now, the big accomplishment will be if he could win next Saturday, because that is going to be the first ever tier 1 race, obviously. Tier 1 only drivers with obviously reserves. This is obviously a mixture of all. And I tell you, it's been a sensational drive. You can't fault him for that. He hasn't put a foot wrong or a hand wrong here. And as he goes through the final corner now, he starts his final lap of this 35% race, and I think is also going to be the only driver to possibly lap someone if he wants that credit and push hard to well, obviously, actually no, he lapped Lucas Paul, obviously, who I think has pitted a few times and has definitely took a few trips to the barriers, which is quite unfortunate for him, obviously starting in P7. We've had 7 retirements in this race, 3 being very early on, and then the last 4 kind of later in the race. 2 I think were actual crashes, and the rest, or 3 were crashes, the rest were all just manual retirements. But it's going to be all eyes on the Alpine team, the French-based team in France, who are going to bring home their first race win in WLR. And I'll hold off for a moment because I switched to Hazaz, who has lost places to Ricky there. He'll try and get back by, but it doesn't look like he's going to. It looks like this is going to be the grid for the end of the race. So, George Ansell has never won a race in WLR, WFC or CTCR. He's going to round the final corner here now in France, and for the first ever featured race in WLR history, he has won the French Grand Prix. Behind him, you can see him a long way in the distance. It's SLR Quattro who picks up his P2, but will he keep hold of it? I'm pretty sure he will. DRA Geordie fell behind on the hard tyres, which looked like a questionable strategy. He wouldn't care because he is standing on a podium place. Alfie, very unlucky with internet connection issues, manages to bring home a P4, with Hayden, amazingly, a Tier 2 driver, finishing in 5th. Ricky the same, Tier 2 reserve, finishes 6th. Hazard's dazed, other Tier 2 drivers coming in, and then our only 2 Tier 3 drivers being Jackie Gabbana and El Mas, and Daniel Mullen, who finishes in 9th. Daniel Mullen, a very strong race as a Tier 3 reserve, finishes definitely the best of the rest, with Jackie Gabbana, who had left the session, and 16 seconds of penalties too, means that El Mas is going to pick up a podium, or a point, and finish off the practice race grid. Very quick rush to the line from those drivers, as I'm pretty sure that's rain dropping there, so we're lucky we didn't get any of that towards the end. I have to say, an excellent race, and I'm sure there's a lot more to come. That has been the WLR practice race. We'll actually have a look at the podium places here now. George Ansell winning the race in French colours in France. Won't appear on the calendar, and I think that was kind of the plan with this practice race. It may get an appearance next season. Unfortunately not this season. We'll have to wait and see. So, George Ansell wins the race from pole position, with SLR Quattro getting up into 2nd. DRA Geordie in 3rd, with Legend in 4th, Hayden in 5th, Ricky 6th, Hazza 7th, Days in 8th, and Daniel Mullen in 9th. Jackie Gabbana 10th, with El Mas in 11th. Ecos Hennessy 12th, with Lucas Paul 13th, Fusion Z Gamer 14th, Taylor 15th, Lucky Nutshot 16th, Magnus 17th, Marley 18th, SJR 19th, and Ishan 20th. I've been Gaffo. This has been the practice race. We'll see you on Thursday for Tier 3. Until then, good night.